Starting off, guys, with the worst evolution in the game, we got the Evolved Goblin Giant. Ever since they nerfed the Goblin Giant's health, as well as giving 2 nerfs to the Spear Goblins on the backpack, it has been by far the worst evolution in the game, and pretty much nobody has been running it anymore, alongside the regular Goblin Giant, so it's definitely the worst evolution in my opinion. Next up, guys, we got the Evolved Bomber. The Evolved Bomber has gotten drastically worse ever since they made it where it can't get double bounces on top of the same thing anymore, which also includes towers, and of course it being a 2-cycle evolution instead of 1. Pretty much everyone is preferring other evolutions over it, whether it's the Evo Skeletons, the Evo Tesla, Evo Knight, just tons of other evolutions people prefer inside of Cycle and Beatdown decks as well. The Evo Bats guys are going to be next. They fell off quite a lot ever since the minions got the range buff, because you're pretty much just going to run minions in every deck you can think of, whether it's kind of a cheaper deck inside a Mortar, you're commonly seeing minions now, or even in expensive decks like with the Giant or Golem Lava Hound, you'll see minions instead of the Evo Bats, so they just got a lot worse and pretty much got replaced. Next up, guys, we got the Evo Ice Spirit. When they nerfed the Ice Spirit, guys, and made it have less of a freeze slowdown by 0.1 second, it actually impacted the Evo Ice Spirit a lot more because it freezes twice. So as a result of that, people are using the regular Ice Spirit over the evolution significantly more. And any evolution, guys, where the regular card is better than the Evo, it's definitely going to be a below average evolution in that case, which you're going to notice with a lot of these cards, especially, guys, the Evolved Dark Goblin. So this is probably a hot take because I know there's probably a lot of mid-ladder players and casual players that think the Dark Goblin is very good. But in reality, guys, most people are running the standard Dark Goblin over the evolution ever since they nerfed it, so that evolution gas that, it shoots out and then it stays there for 8 seconds. That's not the case anymore. It now expires really, really quick. So now people are using the regular Dark Goblin with the Evolved Goblin Barrel, or maybe the Evo Cannon, for example, Evo Knight, Evo Valk. So they're using other evolutions in their bait deck except the Dark Goblin, which is why it's well above average in my opinion. Below average in my opinion. Next up, guys, we got the Evo P.E.K.K.A. So the Evo P.E.K.K.A, guys, ever since the Chef got nerfed, she has been drastically worse because that was one of the best pairings for the Evo P.E.K.K.A, that Chef combination, as well as the Evo Gob Giant in that Chef deck. And because both of those cards got nerfed, that's kind of an indirect nerf to the P.E.K.K.A. So you actually see a lot of people now running the regular P.E.K.K.A over the evolution, just definitely making it a below average evolution. By the way, I'm a little sick, guys, so if my commentary is a little off, that's probably why. Next, guys, we got the Evolved Goblin Drill. Now, guys, it actually spawns 2 goblins when it submerges, so that is going to make it a lot better because before it was only 1. So it's slightly better, but I'm going to be honest, it's still below average Evo. It's just a bit better now. So this is a tiny bit of a prediction. We have to see how things play out, of course. But I genuinely don't think it's the worst Evo in the game anymore, or even bottom 3, because I see some people playing it again, and people might need to learn what decks it's good in. So I think it's no longer a bottom 3 Evo, but only time will tell. Next, guys, we got the Evolve Electrojag. So this is mostly going to be good inside of Golem decks, in my opinion, and also E-Golem. So it is pretty niche, but if you don't have a lightning or an effective way of dealing with it, it can be very obnoxious. It's just the problem is it's not extremely versatile. It's only in specific decks, and it's also not that great against cycle decks because it's mostly going to be good at stopping big beatdown pushes, and it tends to be a bit situational. So that's why I think it is a below average evolution, even though in the right matchup it can seem pretty oppressive sometimes. Next up, guys, we got the Evo Mega Knight. So the Evo Mega Knight, guys, even though casuals, mid-ladder players think that it's pretty good, there's actually a lot of scenarios where the regular Mega Knight is better than the evolution, because if you're against like a Boss Bandit, for example, or the Evo Witch, it actually benefits those players because then the Boss Bandit can dash, for example, and the Evo Witch, the skeletons get taken out, but then because she gets knocked back, it kind of benefits her because then she's like healed up and then she can spawn skeletons again. So against something like a Golem or a Giant, of course it's going to be good, but then in a lot of situations against cycle decks too, it's also not going to be that beneficial, or against air. So it's a very situational evolution, making it kind of a below average one, and the regular Mega Knight can be better in some scenarios. So next, guys, we got the Evolved Goblin Cage. Ever since they removed the extra health from this evolution, it has definitely been a lot worse. I don't think it's a horrible evolution. Of course, if you're against maybe a P.E.K.K.A. or a Golem deck, it can be really good. But if you're against an air deck or a cycle deck, it's pretty useless. So it's very situational, and you can pretty much only fit it in a couple things. Even recruit decks, I feel like very rarely run it nowadays. It's mostly an E-Giant. I feel like E-Giant is the main deck that you see it in because recruit players are a lot of times running the Evo Royal Hogs now, which are a very good evolution. Of course, next, guys, we got the Evolved Barbarians. These used to be one of the worst evolutions in the game, but they've actually made a really big comeback recently, especially inside of Bridge Spam decks. They've proven to be very, very good. Maybe with the Evo Battle Ram, for example, or the Evo Lumberjack, Cannon Cart deck, stuff like that, they can be very good. And also sometimes Golem Healer decks like to play them, or Lava Hound, where they can be really good defensively. But there definitely are going to be way better options than them, like of course, the Evolved Valkyrie, which is going to be used a lot more inside of things like Lava nowadays. The Evolved Firecracker, guys, is going to be next. Now that she doesn't knock herself back as much, she's definitely a lot worse. Without a doubt, you pretty much only see her inside of Hog decks now. That's pretty much the only thing. And Hog Firecracker is definitely not in the best spot it's been in recently, which is why I do think it's a below average evolution by a bit, but it's not completely awful. Inside of Hog, it definitely can be very valuable in a lot of circumstances compared to the regular Firecracker. The Evo Lumberjack, guys, is another evolution that I feel like is decent, but it's not going to be outstanding anymore ever since they made it 2 cycles. I feel like there's a lot of evolutions that people just tend to use more, or there's a lot of replacements. Like, for example, some people might want to run the Evo Battle Ram over it, or the Evo Barbarians, or the, for example, maybe even the Evo Valkyrie. So there's just a lot of subs for it. It's definitely not a necessity in a lot of decks, but it is going to be pretty good inside of Golem and Bridge Spam decks if you want to use it in that. Having that ghost that spawns out of it can be very valuable in a lot of circumstances, and it's definitely not a bad evolution. The Evolved Royal Recruits, guys, definitely have fallen off a little bit ever since they got that nerf where they need a bit more time to charge now. That has definitely made them worse. They're, of course, still better than the regular recruits, but I feel like both the regular recruits and the Evo recruits definitely not as annoying as they used to be, especially with things like the Evo Ghost in the game, that I feel like is just a pretty solid counter to them, and just other strong evolutions that really have just surpassed them ever since they got nerfed. I feel like they're finally at the point where they might even be a below average evolution now, which is kind of crazy to think because they were one of the best for the longest time. And then next, guys, we have the Evo Snowball. This has fallen off a little bit because I feel like recently Drill has been a bit worse in the meta. I haven't seen as many people run the Evo Snowball with Drill. Also, Giant Graveyard with the Evo Snowball for some reason has completely fallen out of the meta as well. Hopefully that doesn't age poorly and it just comes back out of nowhere. But the bottom line is, definitely hasn't been as strong as it used to be. Maybe people learned how to counter it, so the Evo Snowball isn't as much of a surprise anymore with the Evo Drill, so maybe that's why its usage has gone down a little bit. But with the Evo Drill, of course, going to be a very good combination, but there's a lot of decks where the regular Snowball is actually better. Like Loon Cycle, you want to use the regular Snowball over the evolution because otherwise you're just knocking the thing back into your balloon, for example, which is not good, whereas you want to push it aside, if that makes sense. The Evo Archers, guys, are going to be next. I feel like they're a pretty average evolution because for the most part, they're only going to be good inside of Expo decks. They used to be a bit better and they used to be a bit more versatile. Like sometimes you would see them in things like Giant Graveyard, for example, or even maybe some Recruit Balloon deck, but I feel like nowadays it's pretty much always Expo, and Expo, it's not even like it's amazing right now, so I feel like they're just kind of a very average evolution. Next, guys, is going to be the Evolved Battle Ram. I feel like this evolution is very good, especially if your opponent doesn't have a stun or reset for it. And even if your opponent has a building, it's still going to be more valuable than the regular Battle Ram because you actually have that bounce aspect, and I think it can be really tricky to deal with in a lot of scenarios. And even if you are able to stop it, I feel like you find yourself overcommitting on it a lot. I think the main limiting factor for it is kind of a niche evolution in the sense you have to kind of use it in a Bridge Spam deck. That's pretty much the only thing you can fit it in. Maybe Three Musketeers now. People might start using it more in after the Three Musketeer rework, but it's not an evolution that's going to be played a lot, but in the decks it's used in, I think it's very strong. And it's kind of a similar story, I feel like, for the Evo Musketeer. I think that the Evo Musketeer inside a Loon Cycle is absolutely phenomenal, but there's not really another deck you can play it in. But inside of Loon Cycle, it's amazing because you can just snipe buildings and there's tons of predictions you can do. But it's not OP too because you can also block with things like the skeletons, for example, or the goblins or the guards. So you have an opportunity to protect whatever they're using the Evo Musk to snipe, basically. So it kind of goes both ways, making it a pretty average and balanced evolution, I would say. The Furnace, guys, I think is a lot worse now. I think there's some people that still think the Evo Furnace is very annoying, but for the most part, pretty much I'm only seeing the Evo Furnace now inside of bridge spam decks. I think them making it so it walks up quicker really did end up doing the trick. I think that, it's definitely more balanced now. I'm not seeing it inside a graveyard everywhere anymore, or inside of Hog, certainly not. Pretty much the only decks I see it in is inside of Beatdown. I pretty much never see it inside of Cycle decks anymore, so I think it's way more balanced after the nerf they ended up giving it. Same guys with the Evo Witch. This is one that a lot of pro players really hate and think that, she's really annoying, but now I'm pretty much only seeing her inside of graveyard decks, golems, things along those lines, and she's no longer at all a necessity to have inside of your deck. And I feel like there are a lot of good tools and ways of countering her, and especially with things like the Evo Baby Dragon being really strong in the meta, as well as the Evo Ghost. I feel like she's definitely a way more balanced evolution currently as things stand, especially with the Vines getting a nerf. And I think the Vines nerf and her having less heal per skeleton, that really helped balance her out for sure. The Evo Hunter, guys, the main problem for the Evo Hunter is pretty much he's only viable inside of Royal Giant decks. And Royal Giant, don't get me wrong, is absolutely amazing, but there's actually a lot of Royal Giant decks that don't even use the Evo Hunter nowadays. They're using the Evo RG and the Evo RG, so double RG decks basically, and the Evo Hunter's not being played. So only some RG decks have the Evo Hunter, so because he's not a requirement, you can't really put him much higher than being around average among the other evolutions, but he can be very useful in RG, netting everything, and he's going to be very helpful against beatdown pushes and win conditions in general. Next, guys, we have the Evo Mortar. I feel like this is probably the most balanced building evolution out of all of them. It's definitely not as strong as the Evo Cannon, and I feel like it really is just similar to the regular mortar, except it's firing the goblin. The thing about this evolution is I feel like once you get a lock on a tower, it's super deadly, but I feel like if your opponent has a lot of good tanks and mortar counters, it's not even really that much more valuable compared to the regular mortar, because that's really where you notice the impact when you get a mortar lock on the tower. But it can be pretty cool sometimes, I guess, defensively, too, to have that goblin help out. But it's definitely really not that oppressive or OP or anything like that. I think it's just pretty average. And Mortar is also in a spot right now where it doesn't feel too OP in the meta. Mortar's kind of an average win condition at the moment, so I think it's kind of an average evolution in general. The Evolved Goblin Barrel, guys, used to be a lot better, but ever since they nerfed the Decoy Barrel, it's definitely been a bit worse, but this is an evolution that's definitely helped revive Logbait, because Logbait was in a really bad spot before this evolution came to the game, and now pretty much every single Logbait deck you see, guys, has this evolution in it. I don't think Logbait is broken in this meta, but this has definitely revived Logbait, and all the variants of Logbait, whether it's a quick cycle Logbait deck or traditional Logbait with the Inferno and the Rocket, you're always going to want to use the Evo Barrel because it's so annoying for people to deal with, especially when you have a tank for both of the barrels and you just have a big push coming in. You just have that dual lane pressure that forces your opponent to overcommit. And it's definitely a solid evolution that you want to be using inside of bait decks without a doubt, but there's definitely a solid amount of counters to it at the same time, like Log, Bard Barrel, so it's nothing too crazy, and I think it's in a pretty good spot at the moment. Next up, guys, we got the Evo Tesla. Evo Tesla definitely in a way better spot compared to what it was before it got the pulse damage buff. Now that it got the pulse damage buff, there's a lot of interactions that I feel like are a bit better for the Tesla now. So especially inside of Expo, this is where you're really going to notice it. Unlike the Evo Archers, though, that are pretty much only exclusively in Expo, I feel like the Evo Tesla is actually very good inside of Goblin Drill decks, as well. It's also going to be pretty good inside of Hog Cycle, and you can make it work in a couple different things besides just Expo, which is why I definitely think it's a significantly better evolution compared to the Evo Archers at the moment. It's just going to be a solid air counter as well. Next, guys, we're going to have the Evo Inferno Drag. This is going to be a pretty good evolution, especially inside of graveyard decks. That's where I feel like it's best in. It's also going to be pretty good inside of Lava Hound decks, for example, and just heavy decks in general. And if your opponent doesn't have a reset to it, it is going to be really, really challenging to deal with, and it's pretty much a win condition on its own. It's a little bit matchup dependent, but I feel like it's just so good against beatdown decks, and it's really oppressive if you don't have the right counter to it. But I don't think it's broken. It's definitely not a top few evolution because it's a bit matchup dependent. But because the regular Inferno Drag is already a strong card, I think that's what makes the evolution pretty good as well. Next, guys, we got the Evo Skeletons. So this is going to be one where it's like one set of Evo Skeletons could win you the whole match, especially if you're against a Cannoneer or something like that, or if you're against a beatdown deck that doesn't have an adequate spell. And sometimes they're not going to do anything, but you have to realize they always force a response out. So even if they're not doing anything, they're forcing your opponent to basically overcommit on them, whether that's using arrows or a log or a zap. They're doing something they don't want to do. And the Evo Skeletons, guys, have made a big return recently, especially after the Ice Spirit nerf. I feel like a lot of people started using the Evo Skeletons again over the Evo Ice Spirit. So you're constantly seeing them inside of Hog Cycle, for example, inside of Goblin Drill decks, inside of bait decks. Even sometimes Royal Giant players might want to run them. So they're in a variety of decks, Hog as well, and they can be really threatening if you don't have the right spells. In my opinion, though, guys, the Evo Skeleton army is better than the Evo Skeletons. It can be really challenging to deal with if you don't have the right spells or counters in hand. Fun fact, Earthquake is one of the best counters to this, as well as the arrows. They both counter it very effectively, but if you don't have one of those two spells, you can be absolutely cooked in some situations. So that's why they're going to be really good in some decks that have a tank, like maybe with the Giant Skeleton, or split decks with the Royal Hogs, for example, or in log bait decks. It's just going to be a solid evolution. A lot of people thought it was one of the worst evolutions in the game when it first came out. That has been far from the truth, though. Definitely I would say an above average evolution by a little bit at this point. Evo Night, guys, is going to be next. This card definitely fell off a little bit. For the longest time, it used to be one of the best evolutions in the game, but I feel like recently it's actually been way more balanced. I feel like after all the nerfs they gave it, so it doesn't literally stay alive infinitely, it's kind of at the point now where actually the Evo Valk is a bit better than the Evo Knight in a lot of decks, but it's still going to be pretty good, of course, inside of graveyard decks. I feel like that's the main place you're going to see it nowadays, because now a lot of other decks are preferring other evolutions like the Valk over it, but a graveyard or things where you need that tank, it's going to be pretty solid. But the thing is, inside of things like Expo, for example, Evo Tesla, Evo Archers are preferred over it. So there's just a lot of substitutes for it nowadays, which is why I think it kind of has fallen off a bit, for sure. Evo Executioner, guys, is going to be next. I feel like one of the things that makes this evolution really solid and definitely above average is the fact that it's a one-cycle evolution. So this allows you to get to it pretty frequently, and the evolution ability of it is very, very strong. That knockback it has, and you're dealing that extra damage, that's why this evolution is phenomenal inside of bridge spam decks, where you're getting extra defense because of that knockback. Hog X NATO is going to be really good in as well. It helps you a ton against air, and I just think the ability and the evolution itself is just so solid. Don't think it's broken or anything like that, but it's definitely a well above average evolution, especially with it being one cycle. This might surprise you guys, but the Evo Wall Breakers, I'm not going to have in the top 3 this time. They gave the Evo Wall Breakers as well as the regular Wall Breakers a nerf in the last set of balance changes, and I think it's going to make a difference. This is a little bit of a prediction, but I think it will make a noticeable difference. I believe now they don't do as much death damage. That's the nerf they gave it, I'm pretty sure. That was either to the Evo Wall Breakers or the regular Wall Breakers, but I know they nerfed, I believe for both it was the damage in some way. One of them might have been the death damage, the other might have just been the actual damage, but I think it's going to make them... So I still think they're going to connect just as often, but when they connect now, it's just going to be less damage. They're going to be a little bit less of a threat, which I think over the course of a match is going to be noticeable. that extra damage they're not getting really does add up. So you're maybe now going to have some matches where it's like you survive with like 100 HP on your tower, 200, whereas before you would have lost. So that makes a big difference. So I think really good nerf by them in my opinion. And as a result of that, guys, I would not be surprised if the Skeleton Barrel is better this month than the Evo Wall Breakers because of the fact that the Evo Wall Breakers got a nerf. I could see some people going back to the Evo Skeleton Barrel instead, which is why I'm going to put them one position above the Evo Wall Breakers. I think even though this got a death damage nerf by, I believe, 6% a few months ago, I still think this is a solid card, especially inside of Mortar decks. Paired with the Miner, it's really, really solid. The Gob Hut as well. The Evo Skeleton Army, I think, as well. This pairs very well with the Skeleton King. I just think a lot of spammy decks fit well with this card, and I think we're just going to be seeing it more this meta for sure, because I think it can be difficult to deal with that death damage, and the fact you got to deal with 2 barrels, it can be really annoying if you don't have a building or the right spells. The Evo Valkyrie, guys, is going to be up next. I feel like she's definitely better than the Evo Knight at the moment. There's just so many different decks running her, whether it's Lava Hound decks, she often tends to be the evolution of choice now for that defense you're getting. She can basically defend a whole push really, really easily for only 4 elixir. And there's even some graveyard players that are running her now, and even with there being a small risk of the king activation, they don't even care, which is kind of crazy. I've even been seeing some golem players use her. That's how versatile she's been. And then, of course, Hog X NATO, she's going to be good in as well. And, you know, a couple other things. I feel like she's very versatile. She can fit well in a lot of different decks. I mean, you could use her in Mortar as well, minor decks for the defense. So just very good synergy with a lot of things. The Evolve Royal Hogs, guys, are going to be next. This is one where it's a tiny bit of a prediction because they just came out, but I genuinely do think they're a top 6 evolution, top at least 6, 7. I would say they're a very good evolution, guys. Of course, when new evolutions first come out, everyone is kind of playing them a lot to test them out. I think even though they're 2 cycles, though, they're very, very good, and it's not even because of their flying. It's because, guys, and I'll show you, when they crash down, they deal the landing damage. So pay attention to that, guys. The landing damage is why they're very, very strong. It sometimes is hard to have an effective way of countering them without worrying about that landing damage. You see how they just take out the goblins there? Not even only the goblins that they take out, that tower damage they're dealing, or the damage they're dealing to buildings when you use to defend them, they're going to get damaged so much, which is so different than the regular Royal Hogs. Now, I don't think they're going to be amazing inside of Recruits, but inside of Royal Hog Cycle, I think they're going to be very, very good. Or with the 3 Musketeers, a lot of people have been running them as well, and I really do believe they will be an above average evolution, but I don't think they're going to be completely broken because luckily they made them 2 cycles instead of 1. Perhaps they could have actually done 1 cycle, but then just not have any landing damage. That could have been, that probably would have been broken, realistically. Probably we learned our lesson with the Baby Dragon, although they are 5 elixir, so I don't know. But anyway, speaking of the Baby Dragon, guys, even though this is a 2 cycle evolution, now instead of 1, this is still one of the best evolutions in the game. Whether this is Golem you're playing it in, whether it's Graveyard, it's just really, really good for speeding things up. The Electro Giant as well. Can't believe I forgot about the Electro Giant. But yeah, pretty much every beatdown deck you can think of, with the balloon as well. It is so good just pushing the balloon so quickly in a tower. Every beatdown deck, it pairs so well, and you cannot go wrong with the Evo Baby Drag. That extra defense you're getting as well, not even just offense. Sure, it speeds up everything in your opponent's tower, but then slowing everything down, buying you more time to defend, is just so valuable, especially in double and triple elixir where there's just more going on. I feel like it can be so difficult to break through in Evo Baby Drag, which is why it's definitely one of the best evolutions in the game, guys. And at number 4, I'm going to go with, guys, the Evolve Royal Giant. The Evolve Royal Giant, guys, is so good in this meta. We have seen so many people use the Evolve RG inside of CRL. It basically was in every single duel set in the World Finals. It finished number 2 in the world on ladder last season, and I think it's just the best win condition in the game at the moment. Even though, guys, people might think the ability of the Evo RG isn't as broken compared to the ability of other Evos, it's more helpful than you would expect, because Do you see how you just that Skarmy it takes out, or if someone goes in for a Knight or a mini P.E.K.K.A on top of it, it just knocks them back. Or even if someone pulls in the RG, the Fisherman, it can knock back the Fisherman and the Hunter shooting it. It changes a lot of interactions, and it really says a lot because now that there's the Evo Hunter in the game and the Evo Ghost, people still prefer running the Evo of the Royal Giant over two other Evos. Like, not many people run the regular Royal Giant, so that really says something. And just the fact that the regular RG is so good, I think that helps the evolution so much. Next, guys, we have the Evo Zap. I would say this is top 3, especially after the Vines nerf. So many people are running the Evo Zap. Again, I know there's a lot of people that think the Evo Zap isn't very good, but it helps so many of the beatdown decks out, guys. The fact that it's so good against so many other evolutions, I think, is why some other evolutions are even not that amazing, because it's just able to take out things like the Evo Firecracker, the Evo Archers, for example, and you're getting that double stun on top of things like Inferno Dragons, Inferno Towers. You're able to kill minions with it. You got to think about the value you get from zapping something twice. It's why Lava Hound is always, I feel like, in a decent spot every meta. Part of it is because of the Evo Zap. It pairs so well with the P.E.K.K.A as well, the Giant, the whoever's running the Gob Giant nowadays. I forgot if I already said that. Some bridge spam players are even running it as well with the Evo Furnace and the Ram Riders. So pretty much all heavy decks, it's just going to fit in so well. And I really just feel like because of the interactions you're getting and because of how versatile it is among heavy decks, I just think it's a really good evolution. The Evo Cannon, guys, despite it getting nerfed recently, I do genuinely believe it's still one of the best evolutions of the game, and I'm having it at number 2 right now. We also saw it used so many times inside of the World Finals. I think as well with the Gob Hut getting a nerf, it's kind of actually an indirect buff to the Evo Cannon. So now some people are running the Evo Cannon again. Even though the Evo Cannon got nerfed, it's like, well, now the Gob Hut got nerfed. It was a bit stronger than the Evo Cannon for a bit. Now the Evo Cannon is probably going to be the strongest building once again because it's just so good in Hog Cycle, Royal Hog Cycle. It's probably even better in this meta because of the Evo Royal Hog. So many people are going to be running it with the Evo Cannon. You could run it inside an E-Giant as well if you want. You could run it inside of a Graveyard deck. It just fits well in so many different things. You know, Goblin Drill, just, you know, pretty much a lot of the cycle decks. And, you know, you're just getting so much value out of it defensively and then also on offense with your push, with the bombs that are dropping down. And you really just can't go wrong with using it. It's just a very consistent evolution, in my opinion. You're going to be able to kill things like a Gob Gang, Archers, a Firecracker, whatever you need to take out. But, guys, by far the best evolution in the game, and this might surprise you guys because it got a pretty big nerf in the last set of balance changes. I believe what it is now, the ghouls deal 50% less damage, but I think they need to remove the spawn damage. I think the spawn damage is the issue. That's what they need to take away. The fact that that spawn damage comes in, I think that's what makes it so broken. It's still being played everywhere. It's so good inside of Royal Giant decks, of course. It's really good with the P.E.K.K.A. People are using it with the Miner. It's in so many different kinds of bridge spam decks. It's in Goblin Drill. You can fit this card in so many different things. I mean, there's even some people running it with the Royal Hogs, the Evo Royal Hogs. I mean, you could use them with the Three Musketeers. It's just a broken evolution still. Don't be surprised if this evolution gets an emergency nerf later this month. It would not surprise me because it is still the best evolution in the game, and I think the spawn damage needs to be removed. If you guys enjoyed the video and my ranking, and let me know what you guys think of this new format as well in the comments below, where I kind of want it to be more like natural and do the flow in game. Instead of the tier list, I did it like this method, where it's like one card at a time, but I kind of did it all in game and just went to each one without editing at all in between. So make sure to give the video a like if you guys enjoyed this format. Subscribe if you guys are not subscribed already. You can use creator code BOSS to support me in any Supercell game. And thanks again until next time, guys. Oh yeah, guys, I was watching the recording back while I was editing the numbers on, and I realized I forgot to rank the Evo Wizard. The Evo Wizard, guys, was supposed to be in between the Dark Goblin and the P.E.K.K.A, which I believe is number 34. The reason why he's such a below average evolution is I feel like he's just very niche. Definitely not a Evo requirement in any deck, and pretty much the only deck you'll see him in occasionally is Royal Giant, but almost always you'd prefer other evolutions like the Evo Hunter or the Evo Ghost over him, making him a pretty weak evolution overall.